Last week, we were talking about COVID at the beginning of the show. We're going to do it again. Because, we're having a big national debate here about, I think, life and death and what should we do moving forward and who's being selfish or not. So a lot of people attacked me, but I just want to say my opinion that we should get back to normal. I'm in good company if I'm crazy. Because the governor of Pennsylvania, he's a Democrat. He said this week, I think everybody's angry. It's been 2 years now. We're fatigued and ready to move on. I think a lot of political vectors are reflecting that. Okay. I see Denmark. I mentioned last week the UK. Boris Johnson said, we're opening back up. Now I see the Prime Minister of Denmark said, we say goodbye to the restrictions and welcome the life we knew before. As of February 1st, Denmark will reopen. So, Matt, I wanted to just read your quote. I thought it was really interesting in the end of your article. You're talking about kids, and you say we need relief from the restrictions imposed by neurotic, statist, and ultimately selfish adults. I would agree with that, and I'm particularly interested in the word selfish, because that's where it's always lobbied at people who are saying that we should be open. We're the selfish ones.
You're being selfish, so get the vaccine.
If you are for maximum safety in all situations, you are the good people, and this is selfish. It's a great question. Who is really being selfish at this point?
The people who are wanting to keep schools closed, there's still some closed, Flint, Michigan, who have personnel problems as well. But people who want to impose the types of rules that are not being followed or recommended pretty much anywhere else in the world. The World Health Organization says don't mask kids under 5. New York and 14 other states, all of which voted for Joe Biden, incidentally, follow the CDC guidelines, mask from age 2. My daughter, who just turned 7 this week, has been wearing a mask for 30% of her life. And in January, as Omicron, thankfully, is, it's shaped like a steeple, right? It goes straight up and it goes straight down. In New York, as Omicron was cutting through, they're like, okay, you have to upgrade your mask that you wear every day in your school, where every one of the kids is vaccinated and every one of the teachers is vaccinated. Who are we protecting in that scenario? We don't realize to what extent we are departing from basic kind of scientific understandings of things and giving into our own understandable at first sense of fear and panic.
Everybody panic! Oh my God!
But we're adults. We have to assess risks. We have not been doing that, and we've been inflicting it on the most vulnerable population, and it's a disaster. It's been really, really bad.
Yeah. Okay with that? Well, David Leonhardt, I think in the New York Times, the only sane voice there, in my view. And I think it's fantastic. Here's a great quote from him. This week he wrote, millions of Democrats have decided that organizing their lives around COVID is core to their identity as progressives. That's really a key to this, because, again, these are the science people, and they're not listening to basic science.
So please, in the name of science, question everything.
I see people in cars, alone in a car with the mask. Do they think they're going to get it from the radio?
They might be wanting to be incognito. I have to say that sometimes I have put the mask on when I don't want anyone to know it's me going by. Haven't you done that? I mean, come on.
I don't have the level of notoriety.
I've definitely done it.
Okay.
I have to confess.
But why can't we precisely target, and I mean target, protect the people who are vulnerable and let society go back? I'm like, here's what I don't understand. Lancet came out this week. 90%, up to 90%, their head guy said, I think it was their head guy, said Omicron people who have it asymptomatic. With the other variants, it was like 40%. Now, even 40%, think about that. The horrible Delta, the horrible COVID classic. Almost half the people never even knew they had it. That never happened with smallpox. Okay. Now, he said, Omicron, up to 90% could be asymptomatic. So it's, and I know so many people have had it because it's everywhere. And they're like, it's nothing. I've had hangovers that were worse. Really. So I'm not, okay, but I also know that people are still dying, hundreds of people a day. I want to know how both things can be possible. So I'm asking, so I got, who's dying? 99% from June 2021 of COVID-19 deaths unvaccinated.
Right.
78%, I've read this before, are the people hospitalized or died overweight or obese. People over 65 make up 75% of all COVID deaths. So in other words, we could be more precise about this. We could pinpoint and help protect the people who are vulnerable, and the rest of us go back to life, it seems to me, and we don't do that. Why?
I think it's part of the way that we've started to talk about it. I mean, you're already touching on it, right? I mean, you just said that, part of the problem is, the Democrats, on the one hand, think one thing. Of course, we know that on the other, Republicans. I was literally in a coffee shop up in Wisconsin when I was visiting some of my in-laws, and a guy in front of me, I was wearing a mask because this was in the peak of the Delta variant. And the guy said to his friend, of course I'm not going to get vaccinated or wear a mask because I'm a Republican. And I immediately thought, what? I mean, how are we making these decisions based on a partisan basis? And that's really what you're getting at here.
Right.
It's that people are actually looking at identity politics or their own personal political preferences. We've got so polarized that we're not making rational judgments. I mean, I'm probably with you guys, weighing up my daughter who's 15 versus my mother who's 87. I haven't seen my mother in more than 2 years. She's now in a residential home in the UK, but she's obviously at risk. Whereas my daughter's in a completely different category. So we need to have a sensible conversation about that, not that it's based on what my political preference is.
Right, that we protect the people. I would spend any amount of tax money to do that, the people who are truly vulnerable. Right. Stephen Breyer doesn't want to work with Gorsuch because Gorsuch won't wear a mask. I have a correction. I did make a mistake. It was Sonia Sotomayor on the Supreme Court who asked Gorsuch to wear a mask. I said it was Stephen Breyer. Stephen Breyer, I said but same difference. I support that. He's 83. I get that. Gorsuch should wear a mask around an 83-year-old. But, this is not a country where most people are around an 83-year-old.
Right.
No,
it just isn't, because we're an ageist country.
I guess we're different.
I would also like to, it's completely right. When you look at the different spread of policies, of maskings, of vaccine mandates, and whatever you people had to do to get into this building today.
Just need to make sure your fucking disgusting mouth is 6 feet away from my fucking disgusting mouth. You know how many filthy things I've said over the years?
Are we 6 feet apart?
Yes,
Jesus
we're 6
Christ.
feet. I go 6 feet 2 inches just to be safe, even though it's not currently recommended by the CDC.
By California law, unspeakable acts on Fairfax. But no, with all it's based on partisanship. It's based on who you voted for in the election, which is bananas to me. So as someone who's not part of that, I would like to propose this kind of semi-truce. Each side, Team Red and Team Blue, did one good thing, one big thing great, and one big thing terrible.
Bullshit alert.
Right? Team Blue, you did so great on the thing that actually matters the most. You got vaccinated, right? It's the greatest protection possible against this thing. Get the vaccine. You're probably not going to die if you're healthy.
Most Republicans, 80% of Republicans over 65 got the shot.
Right, but still not enough. Still not enough, and a lot of the places that are getting hurt right now. So Republicans didn't do that stuff good, but Republicans did keep schools open, didn't issue vaccine mandates to go into a bar. New York, you're 5 years old, you can't go inside of an indoor building, even though if you're coming from Europe, you can't get a vaccine in Europe. There are all kinds of mad things that have happened in blue states. They got that wrong. So can we all say that we all did, and I did too, we all got stuff wrong. So in the meantime, can you get rid of some of these mandates that we don't need anymore after the Omicron steeple goes down, and then also get vaccinated? And then we can get back.
But there's going to be another variant.
Couldn't get to come to it.
You can't, every time one goes away, we're like, okay, now we're out of it. We're never out of it. We're never out of it. It wants to live, and it will. It's a virus. It's going to evolve, and it can't be like, oh, okay, when that's what we said about Delta. When that goes away, that can't be the template. I'm sorry. It has to be, it's here, it's...
That's right, baby. We're here, we're queer, and get used to it.
I don't need more controversy.
We have the protection for it. That's the main argument, is that we have the protection for it.
Do you have any protection?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Assorted colors and textures.
Right. So, like, what we should be able to, after the ICU beds are no longer filled, we should be able to not have...
Again, the huge change, the vaccine doesn't stop you from getting it. And doesn't stop you from transmitting it. It stops you from dying.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Take your victory and go home.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you don't, I can't be more invested in your health than you are.
Yeah, it has to be about communication, right? I mean, we've got a safe space in this table, and a very safe space out there with everyone with all their masks on.
It starts.
We have to be able to figure out how we can talk about this in a city.
It starts to look like every other government program. And what is the common thread of government programs?
They never end.
They never end. Exactly.
Including all that, I mean, you talked about money being spent on this. You'd be happy to. We've spent a lot of money. Where did it go?
Jeff Bezos on masks and Amazon.
Yeah, right. And those masks are now like polluting the ocean.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. But exactly, government programs never end. That's whether it's a mohair subsidy, or let me bring up this government program that maybe should have ended, NATO. Because let's talk about that.
That was a funny segue.